Maybe right now you might be starting to feel this tension between the part of you that's deeply ambitious and the part of you that's deeply tired. It's the push-pull between wanting more for your life while also not having the energy or clarity to keep moving forward. A few nights ago, I did something I call a self-care shower. Lights off, no rushing, just candlelight, meditation music, and that's when I had a big aha moment. I'm your host, Lauren, and together, let's explore what it really means to embrace authenticity in a world that often values conformity. If you've ever felt the pull to challenge the status quo or deepen your connection to self, you're in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of Not So Status Quo. Now, if you've intentionally clicked play on this episode based on the title, that tells me that your life right now is probably, let's just say, abundant with tasks, responsibilities, commitments, you name it. Maybe at some stage in the last 6 to 12 months, you felt clearer about what you were working towards in your life in general, or maybe in your career. But right now, those goals and dreams and visions probably seem pretty far away. They are probably lingering somewhere in the dusty, neglected back part of your mind. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm recording this episode in the middle of one of those seasons where there's a lot on my plate too. Between managing this podcast, client work, building new products, other existing roles, and keeping up with the day-to-day behind the scenes, I've been moving at a pretty high pace for a long time. And lately, I can feel the edges almost fraying. I can feel how much energy I've been outputting without taking the space to actually really refill my own cup. And the reality is, even though I know better, resting and restoration still feels hard. Not because I don't want it to, but because when you're someone who cares deeply or you dream big and you want to build something really meaningful, slowing down can feel like falling behind. I have had some really big realizations about this in the last week or so, and I really wanted to share those with you because you might be feeling a similar way. Now, a few months ago, I'd say I was absolutely thriving. My vision was so sharp, my energy was high, I was aligned, I was attracting, I was manifesting, my rituals were solid, my vision board was super dialed in and potent and pretty and glowing. My chosen affirmations were speaking life over me. My journal and notebook pages were full of clarity. I honestly felt unstoppable. Fast forward to now, and things look a little different. Things feel dull, like someone turned the vibrancy down on the picture that I'd been visioning for so long, so clearly. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still very optimistic. I'm still very grateful. I'm still showing up. But lately, it feels like I'm running on autopilot, going a million miles an hour, but making very little meaningful progress forward. The spark has definitely faded in some areas. And I realized recently I haven't actually even looked at my vision board in weeks. I stopped checking in with myself. The affirmations are no longer on my bathroom mirror. I'm always doing, but I'm rarely being. And the worst part, I didn't even notice it happening. It was gradual. One more weekend spent working, one more extra late night, one more task squeezed into an already very full calendar. And I justified all of it because I care deeply. I want it. I'm motivated. But desire without nourishment becomes depletion. And I felt it in my body. I feel frustrated, absolutely disconnected from myself. A few nights ago, I did something I call a self-care shower. Lights off, no rushing, just candlelight, meditation music, hot water, slow breathing, and the view out my window. It's my ritual when I need to bring myself into the present moment, when I want to calm my nervous system and really bring awareness into my body. Before I got out, I closed my eyes and I tried to connect with the future version of me. The one that's living the life I've been working so hard to create. Now, normally this part is actually quite easy for me. Her energy feels so magnetic and it's so familiar. But this time, I couldn't feel her. She felt far away. And that's when I had a big aha moment. How can I access the version of me who holds more when I'm constantly burning through the energy of the me who's here now. That version of me isn't hustling herself into alignment. She's clear, she's calm, she's spacious. I know this because I've tapped into her energy countless times. And the reality is, all of that begins here, now, not someday. So I'm choosing to recalibrate, not by pushing harder or changing my vision or my goals, but by nourishing myself first. So the vision actually has a body to land in when it arrives. So, with this realization, what's my next step? Well, I want to take you through that and a few other strategies in a bit. But first, I want to check in with you. Maybe right now you might be starting to feel this tension between the part of you that's deeply ambitious and the part of you that's deeply tired. It's the push-pull between wanting more for your life while also not having the energy or clarity to keep moving forward. And so the question is, how do you really hold the vision when you're running on empty? Maybe you're not seeing results fast enough, or you've lost the sense of momentum that used to really carry you forward. Maybe your nervous system is holding the weight of responsibilities and expectations and survival mode patterns that are making it harder to trust yourself again, to trust your dreams again. So that's what this episode is for. It's for the woman who still believes in her vision, but is starting to feel too tired to carry it in the way she used to. It's for the high-achieving, purpose-driven soul who's been juggling all the things and needs a moment of exhale, likely some fresh clarity, and probably some realignment. What I know is that you don't have to give up on the life you're building, but you might need to shift how you're building it. So if you've ever wondered whether you've lost your motivation or your spark or your momentum, I want to offer a perspective shift right here, right now at the start. Losing momentum doesn't mean starting from scratch. It means learning a new way to carry the dream or the goals or the vision. All right, so in today's episode, we're going to unpack what burnout really is, what it isn't, why holding the vision can feel so hard, mindset and nervous system resets that don't require energy that you just don't have right now, and how to come back into connection with your dream without abandoning your well-being. And that is the key. All right, let's take a collective exhale and jump on in. I was laying in bed the other morning thinking about my goals and ambitions and about this almost like paradox that so many high achieving, heart-led women are living through. The double life of a dreamer. It looks like this. You have big goals, a deep, exciting, clear vision, maybe even a whole list of dreams tucked away in the notes app on your phone or scribbled into the journal by your bed. But right now, you are just feeling tired. Not just physically, but like a soul deep, really emotionally stretched kind of tired. You want more for your life, but your capacity is low. It feels like there's never enough hours in the day. You are craving change, but the day-to-day is demanding every bit of your energy. It's like you have the vision, but no space to hold it. And that's the double life I want us to explore. The tension between being deeply ambitious and deeply exhausted. Between the fire in your belly and the fatigue in your body. Between your desire to expand and your very real need to exhale and pause. And like I said, right now I'm in that place too. There are multiple things on the go and ideas that I know will make a difference if I can just carve out enough time to bring them to life. I've been working at a high pace for a long time. My nervous system is seriously starting to feel the cost. My body's asking me to rest, but my brain, on the other hand, is still running in go mode. The other night, I was thinking of a task I needed to do that only a few months ago would have really excited me. Instead, I found myself dreading doing it because of how little energy I knew I'd have the next day. And it really shocked me. The things that typically made me excited or gave me energy was starting to feel like a chore. It was almost this tug of war between desire and depletion. Now, I'm sharing this because if you've ever felt guilty for slowing down or just really needing to slow down, you are absolutely not alone. And just like I had to remind myself, there's nothing wrong with you because you're not moving at the pace you think that you should be. When we talk about burnout, we often focus on the exhaustion, but underneath that, there's often this sense of shame or guilt that we carry. You might find yourself thinking, why can't I just push through? I used to be so motivated. What happened? Other people have more on their plate and they're doing more. Like, I catch myself thinking like this in relation to business owners who have kids. And I think, man, I don't even have kids on top of everything I'm doing, and I'm still not keeping up the pace. Sometimes exhaustion is not a sign that you're off path, it's a message that it's time to walk the path differently. So, what if instead of treating burnout like a block to your dreams or an inconvenience, you treated it like a turning point, a moment of pause and check in? What if your body wasn't betraying you by slowing down, but actually guiding you back into alignment, like a course correction? When you're running on empty, it doesn't mean that the vision is completely gone. It just means it's buried underneath the survival mode or the autopilot. It's still there, it hasn't disappeared. It's just waiting for you to come back to it from a place of nourishment and not from this punishment. Okay, so let's talk about what burnout really is. Now, burnout doesn't always look like you're lying in a bed unable to function. More often, it looks like you continuing to show up while feeling internally very drained. You're ticking off the to-do list, you're hitting your deadlines, maybe you're even celebrating the wins. But on the inside, you feel flat, frustrated, agitated, disconnected. The list goes on. So let's separate burnout from a few things it often gets confused with: resistance/hesitation, boredom, lack of motivation. Okay, so the first one is resistance. Resistance might actually be fear-based hesitation, like procrastinating on doing something new because it feels uncomfortable. Burnout is when you literally can't summon the energy to care anymore, even about things that you used to love. Secondly, burnout isn't boredom. Boredom is a signal of stagnation or lack of challenge. Burnout is a depletion of your inner resources. Even exciting opportunities start to feel heavy. You don't just want a change, you need a recharge. And thirdly, burnout isn't lack of motivation. In fact, you might still be very, very motivated, but your capacity is just gone. You can see what needs to be done, but the energy to do it just isn't there. And the hardest part, because you're still functioning, you're still showing up to work, still replying to emails, still posting on socials, still being the responsible one. It's easy to convince yourself that you're fine, but you're not fine. You're running on fumes. Now, not all burnout announces itself with this dramatic collapse. Sometimes it slips in quietly through the side door, and that's why it's so dangerous, because it's lurking and you aren't even aware. I'm going to give you a few signs to pay attention to, so take note if any of these sound familiar. Okay, the first one, you start fantasizing about escape. So, moving countries, quitting everything, going off grid. It's less about the dream and more about the relief that the fantasy offers. Now, this one has been very prevalent for me for the last few months, and I really should have clocked it sooner. I constantly wake up just wanting to jump on a plane and go traveling and exploring to get out of this environment, even though everything in my environment is great. Okay, the second one, you feel mentally foggy and emotionally flat, even after sleeping. The third one, joy and happiness are harder to access even when things are going well on paper. Okay, next, the simplest decisions feel overwhelming. Maybe you delay sending texts, avoid making plans. Maybe you feel indecisive about things you'd usually breeze through and have no hesitation around. The fifth one, you're more reactive, or maybe the opposite, you're more checked out than usual. And maybe the most telling is that your mind keeps telling you, I can't keep doing this, but you're not sure what this is or how to actually change it. So why then do we keep pushing? Well, one reason burnout persists is because the world often rewards output over well-being. If you've ever felt pride in how much you can juggle, how resilient you are, how you always get it done, you are in good company. But from experience, that praise can become a trap. It convinces you that slowing down is weakness, that rest is indulgent, that your worth is tied to your productivity. So you keep going. You push through the exhaustion. You minimize how depleted that you actually feel until your body forces you to stop. And the cost of ignoring burnout isn't just physical fatigue, it's often creative shutdown. I'm experiencing this at the moment, emotional withdrawal, detachment from your vision. Now, before we move on, I want you to think about an area of your life right now and ask yourself, am I doing this because it's aligned or because I'm afraid to stop? Now, this question isn't about judgment, it's about gaining clarity. Because when you realize how much of your output is fueled by fear, fear of slowing down or being left behind or becoming irrelevant, you start to see the burnout for what it really is, a redirection. It might not be off the path completely, but perhaps it's just how you're walking that path. So then, why does holding the vision feel so hard? I've seen it time and time again with myself and some of my clients. There seems to be a moment in our growth journey that we don't seem to acknowledge. It's not the beginning part where everything feels really exciting and shiny and possible. And it's not the end where the pieces have finally clicked into place. It's the middle ground, the space between who you were and who you're becoming, where the old path doesn't fit anymore, but the new one hasn't fully formed. This is where maintaining holding the vision often gets really hard. Not usually because you've stopped believing in it, but because you're walking through the fog between what was and what will be, where everyday commitments seem to take over and override the momentum. On a logical level, you may know you want something more or something different, but your body is wired for familiarity, not fulfillment. So even when your goals or dream are crystal clear, your nervous system might still interpret change as a threat. That creates a tug of war. One part of you is reaching for expansion, while the other part is gripping tightly to whatever feels safe, even if it's not satisfying anymore. You might notice it in the way you procrastinate on the next steps, even though you've already decided on them. Maybe you say yes to things that drain you because you don't want to disappoint anyone. Maybe you're trying to force a timeline because uncertainty feels too uncomfortable. It's not that you don't want the dream, it's that your system hasn't caught up to the level of safety required to fully claim it. This is the middle zone, the liminal space, and it can feel really destabilizing. You're no longer who you used to be, but not yet anchored in the new version of yourself. And the hardest part, you can't think your way out of it. It's not a mindset issue. It's not a planning issue. It's an energetic gap where your nervous system is still calibrating to what it means to live in a way that is aligned. Sometimes that looks like doing less, saying no, surrendering control. Other times it means grieving what you thought your life would look like so you can open up to something even better. But either way, it requires one thing above all: capacity. Not just capacity to do more, but the capacity to hold discomfort, to sit with the unknown, to let your next chapter arrive without trying to fast track it. And this leads me to the real conflict at the heart of burnout and vision holding. You want to build something big or different, but you're still operating from the habits that kept you small. For example, let's say you want to grow a business that feels incredibly aligned, but you're still overcommitting to underpaid labor, people pleasing your way through every collaboration, or saying yes when you really want to say no, because you're scared to lose the opportunity if you actually set boundaries. The result is you're building a future with the same patterns that drained your past. No wonder it's exhausting. No wonder the vision feels blurry. You don't need to abandon your vision. You just need to stop dragging old coping strategies into your new season. And then let's be real, there's life. It's easy to think that burnout is just an internal problem, a mindset block, a nervous system issue, a wobble in your confidence. But often it's compounded by the very real logistics of being a human in modern society, likely with a hell of a lot of responsibilities. The reality is, you're likely not trying to manifest your dream life from a mountain retreat or a beachside cabana. You're building it in the in between regular life moments, during school runs, client calls, maintaining the chaos that's happening in your inbox, grocery trips, maintaining your relationships, cooking dinner, moving your body, and late night thoughts that don't switch off when your head hits the pillow. Sometimes it's not that your vision has faded, it's that it's buried under a calendar that hasn't been updated to reflect who you're becoming. That doesn't make you uncommitted, it makes you human. You had a goal, it lit you up, but lately you're too tired to even imagine what it would feel like to actually live it. This is where momentum often fizzles because the day to day systems in your life weren't designed to support the version of you who's pursuing it. You might still be operating with routines and roles that belonged to a different season. And without a conscious reevaluation of what gets to stay and what gets to shift, it's easy to slip into default mode, to go through the motions, to keep postponing the life you really want until things settle down. So, we've established then that something needs to change in order to avoid burnout and to still get what we want. And when you're running on empty, the last thing you need is another productivity list. What you do need, though, is a way to meet yourself where you are without letting go of where you're heading. I think we often overestimate how much we need to do to get back on track. But honestly, big change doesn't always require big energy. It often is about the micro movements that help you stay tied to your vision, even when you're deep in the trenches of everyday life. Sometimes it looks like standing barefoot on the ground for 60 seconds to bring your nervous system back online. Sometimes it's about closing your eyes and spending half a minute imagining what it would feel like to already be living the life that you're working so hard towards. So let's go over a few simple recalibration practices that you can start to implement today that won't demand more energy from you. And we're going to start with what I'm about to do in the coming week to really help me realign. Now, I can tell you that this next step isn't going to be a strategy sprint, it's going to be a self audit. I'll be looking at where my time is going, what needs to be simplified, what can be dropped or delegated so I can protect my peace. Because I don't want to burn out from my dreams, I want to build them from a place of sustainability, softness, strength. So, if you're in a similar place to me, the first thing I would encourage you to do is a mini life audit like me. When you're feeling burnt out and unmotivated, your brain might want to blow everything up and start from scratch. I did an episode on this a few episodes ago. But often you don't need to reinvent your entire life, you just need to audit it. Grab a notebook and break your life down into these categories: work, relationships, home, health, habits, vision, or you could call it future desires. Then, in addition to the questions I mentioned just before, I want you to ask yourself, what feels energizing? What feels draining? What feels overdue for release? What do I crave more of? There shouldn't be pressure to act on everything that comes up. This kind of awareness, it's meant to help you break old patterns, stop defaulting to these old patterns, and start making space for what's next, what's actually going to be supportive. If something on your list can be dropped or changed to make space for rest and restoration or new habits, do it. Okay, the second one is a future you visualization. Now, connecting with that future version of you who already has the thing is super important to break the autopilot state you're in. Now, don't worry, you do not need a 20-minute routine to connect with your future self. All you need to do when you are heading to sleep or really any other time of the day, is close your eyes, take a deep breath, and picture a version of you who feels nourished, supported, in flow. What are they doing today? What are they wearing? How do they carry themselves? The key here isn't to have all of the answers, it's to feel, the keyword feel, into the frequency of the version of you. This is really potent to help you raise your vibration. Even 30 seconds of this can really shift your mental state as well. Because when your brain has felt that sense of where you're going, it starts repatterning your actions in sometimes subtle but very powerful ways. Now, the next one might be really needed for some of you and not so much for others. It's about grounding into your body. Now, when your nervous system is overloaded, it disconnects from the present because it doesn't really feel safe here. So some really simple somatic practices can really bring you back into the here and now. And these can include things like walking barefoot on the ground. So on the grass, the sand, on the dirt, like even for just a minute or two. Another thing you can do is place your hand on your heart and really focus on your breath. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and repeat. I call this box breathing. Really try and feel your heartbeat slow. If you're feeling particularly tense, you can also do a full body tense and release. So clench your fists, clench your body, hold it, and then release. I want you to really notice the tension just melting out of your body. And if you need to repeat it, do that again. The other really practical thing you can do when you're overwhelmed and your to-do list has pretty much become a minefield is to simplify everything down to this one question. If I could do just one thing today that brings me closer to the life I want without burning out, what would it be? It might be sending the email you've been avoiding. It might be saying no to something out of alignment. It might be sitting in the sun and letting your body exhale. There is no wrong answer, just a moment to move with intention and not with this intensity that you've been working at. At the end of the day, we live in a culture that tells us consistency equals showing up the same way every day. But real consistency is built on sustainability. It truly honors your energy. It allows you to pause or to shift or to adapt without quitting on yourself. And it adjusts with your season because just like nature, we're never going to remain in the same season the whole year. Now, before we move on, I also want to highlight that I do also believe that the different stages of a woman's monthly cycle can also impact on how connected or disconnected we feel to our goals and to our dreams. It's something I've started noticing more and more within myself and a few of the people around me. So, if you're in a moment where the vision or your goals have lost their spark or they feel really distant, let's not try and sprint back into momentum blindly or without intention. Now, with this said, whether you're feeling like you could be on the verge of burnout or maybe you're needing to crawl your way out of a burnt out state, let's discuss how you can actually build a burnout proof vision for your life. Because listen, I think there comes a moment in every dreamer's journey when she realizes, I can't push my way into the life I want. Not because my vision is too big, but because force is unsustainable and flow is where the next level actually lives. If you've been burning out in the pursuit of your desires, you're not doing it wrong. You've just been trying to build your next chapter with tools that belong to your survival era, and we're not about keeping that era around anymore. So this is what we want to look at then, force versus flow. But what do these actually really feel like? Here's how you'll know if you are forcing something. You're overriding your needs or your intuition to stay consistent. You feel like if you stop, everything will fall apart. You measure your worth by your output. Your nervous system is constantly in go mode, but happiness or peace feels really far away. I mean, it seems obvious that these aren't aligned actions, but when you're in the thick of it, autopilot keeps you in that loop. So let's then look at what flow actually looks like. You make decisions that actually honor your energy, not just your ego. You allow momentum to build organically, even if it's slower. You still work hard, but it's fueled by alignment, not fear. And your body feels safe enough to actually receive, rest, and receive again. The other thing I want to highlight is that your dreams and goals are allowed to evolve. Maybe the version of success you were chasing 2 years ago doesn't resonate anymore, and that's okay. Maybe the pace you were trying to maintain was based on someone else's life, not yours. None of that means you're flaky or you're lost or that you can't seem to see things through to the end. It means you're growing and you're evolving. So it is important to let your vision stretch and soften and grow. Let it surprise you. If there's one thing I always talk to my clients about, it is that some goals are just stepping stones. Maybe we thought that they were the end goal, but in actuality, it was a step in the right direction. And from there, the real path illuminates. That is exciting. We don't need to rush to get to the end. Like I mentioned before, many societies and cultures worship speed. We tend to celebrate the woman who made it in 6 months, but rarely talk about the woman who took her time, protected her peace, and ended up with a life that actually felt good. So here's a permission slip that you can hand to yourself. You don't need to rush your way into alignment. Slowness is not a setback, it's a strategy. One that I am absolutely working on trying to integrate more myself. You can absolutely live the life you keep envisioning, the one with more space, more ease, more meaning. But remember, the version of you who gets there, she's not running on fumes. She's grounded and connected and clear. She knows the real flex isn't how fast you get there, it's how deeply you live once you arrive. So let's end on this reminder then. You don't have to choose between ambition and well-being. You're allowed to be lit up by your goals and honor your nervous system. You're allowed to want more and slow down to receive it. So if today's episode resonated, I invite you to take just one small aligned action before you move on with your day. It could be stepping outside barefoot for 60 seconds, writing one sentence to your future self, looking at your schedule and asking, what could I reduce here? If you're in a season where you're holding the vision but feeling stretched really thin, know that this doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human, and it might just be time to tend to the soil before asking more from the seed. So take what served you today and leave what didn't. And as always, you'll find resources linked in the episode description for extra support, whether you're craving a mindset recalibration or just need some nervous system support. Thank you so much for being here, for choosing to keep showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And I would love it if you could share this with a friend or someone who you think could really benefit from it too. All right, my friends, I look forward to you joining me in the next episode of Not So Status Quo.